I'm a patrol sergeant for the Billings Police Department, and I've been a police officer for almost 14 years.
I do trauma outreach education for St. Vincent's, and I've been a paramedic at American Medical Response for 27 years.
I've been an emergency responder for 32 years, and I'm the emergency manager for Yellowstone County.
I'm a patrol officer with the Billings Police Department. I've been an officer for 5 years.
I'm a paramedic, and I've been a first responder for 28 years.
I've been a firefighter for about 16 years. I did 3 years with Shepherd and 14 years with the Billings Fire Department.
I am an EMT and have been on the service for 27 years.
I'm an EMT and been on the service for 27 years.
I've been a sheriff's deputy for approximately 7 years, and I've been employed at the Yellowstone County Sheriff's Office as a deputy for 5 years.
We're here representing Dan Steffensen. He's a friend and a fellow firefighter with Red Lodge Fire Rescue. He was injured in the Harris fire this year, and so he's unable to be here himself.
Dan has been a member of the rescue team, the fire rescue team, for about 6 years, and has been a strong asset within the department.
I became a first responder in 1989, and originally it was to attract girls.
I think ever since I was a little kid, I've always been interested in emergency. Growing up in England, I watched Casualty, and then here I watched Rescue 911 and ER, and just reinforced me wanting to work in the same field.
After 6 years in the Marine Corps and suffering a significant injury in Afghanistan, I decided that the Billings Police Department was the closest thing to the camaraderie and brotherhood that would be offered out here in the civilian world.
So my senior year of high school, I was drifting along, and the school secretary was married to a firefighter and said I should do a ride-along with the Billings Fire Department, and I did. I fell in love with the job.
It takes charisma, empathy, you have to be understanding, and you have to be flexible.
You have to be kind of a caring spirit, but you have to have the head for it too, and the head of the EMT and the paramedic is a very creative thinker. Being able to mesh with a team and being able to work with your coworkers as one unit is absolutely paramount.
Personality to want to help people, dedication, and the willingness to train, and being able to focus.
I think you have to be a people person. You have to want to get in the middle of things and kind of help solve problems.
Firm but fair, impartial, and ultimately you need to have integrity.
Lots of patience and courage.
And listening to the patient.
So recently we had a man trapped at the sugar beet factory, and he was trapped in the sugar silo. And I went in to assist with the rescue, and there's a moment of finality, a definite moment where you realize you are that person's only hope. If you don't succeed in what you're doing, they're not going to go home for the day. So we were able to get him out successfully. Our training kicked in, and he was safe for the day.
So one of the scariest moments of my career, and possibly my life, was in 2014 following a major tornado in Bologna. I was the incident commander, but I was separated from my children, and I had no way of contacting them to know, are they safe? Have they been affected? Are they hurt? And the best way I could get to them was to actually do my job.
We had a page come in that the help helicopter was going to land in Grass Range because of that smoke in the cabin.
And they had a patient on board. They were trying to get to Billings, and so they had our ambulance come up. We put the flight crew and the patient into our ambulance, and then we went as far as Roundup, where a Billings ambulance came up and intercepted with us. And so that was really neat that we got to help the big guys.
I was at the jail one time during 24/7 sobriety testing, and this lady came up to me and started apologizing when she realized who I was. And it took me a while to figure out who she was, but I had DUI'd her, and she was there for court-ordered sobriety testing, and she was telling me how sorry she was for the way she acted and how much it helped her and her kids for her to get into a better spot in life.
We were called to a fatal crash on the interstate where it was clear that there was nothing that we could do for the driver, but in the course of the accident, there was a dog that got thrown, and we had somebody walked up to us and brought this dog to us, which was listless at the time, and I called for to see how long
it would take for animal control to get there, and they were 2 miles back in line. It was going to be a long time, I was concerned. So we actually transported the dog ourselves to a vet, and the dog did fine, but we actually had a family member that came and thanked us afterwards, stating that it was all he had left of his wife, and he was extremely grateful.
We responded to a call in Laurel where a girl had been murdered, and we treated her somewhat, and then Help Flight transported her to the hospital. And we followed, and I just remember when we got there, they told the mom that she had died. I just will never forget Mom's scream or wail after she heard that information.
We went on a call one time where this child had rolled over during the night, and then his breathing tube had pulled out because he had a lot of disabilities, and he passed away then. Well, a lot of his disabilities were due to his cerebral palsy, and my daughter also had cerebral palsy, so that was really hard for me.
In December of last year, I was called to a suicidal male who told a friend he was going to kill himself. I responded on scene and observed through a window this male hanging from a closet rod inside of the bedroom. I kicked the door open, called for medical, cut the male down from his noose, cut the noose off his neck, and began CPR. I did this until other officers arrived and helped me move him into the center of the room until medical could take over. This male is still alive today.
So one morning we had a SIDS call. Those are always really, really hard. And we got there and the mother was trying to revive her baby that she had found in the morning that was beyond help. And so going into that situation still sits with me. It's something that doesn't ever go away, watching her face.
Be prepared, have a plan, prepare for the worst, hope for the best, and expect it'll be somewhere in the middle.
EMS is one of those things. It is hard. It takes a lot. It asks a lot of you, personally and physically. But I truly believe that what you remember as a good adventure is something that you had to endure at the time.
Empathize and build a rapport with people, even though they might have just committed a heinous crime, but always realize that they're probably not at their best moment in their life.
I tell my son to be a hero, which doesn't mean jumping out of a building. It doesn't mean running into a fire. It just means being nice to the person that's next to you and being compassionate about what they may be going through.
We only know you for a brief amount of time, and sometimes we're expected to solve 7 years of problems in 7 minutes. So just have a little bit of trust and understanding while we work through this together.
So even when someone is yelling at you and swearing at you, you still need to take their point of view into consideration in order to come to a good resolution.
You have to remember this is not your emergency. It's someone else's emergency, and you're the one that has to take charge and deal with the situation.
This guy come into the ranch. He says, I think my dog passed away. Can you do CPR on him? I looked at the dog and I tried to do a little CPR on him. I says, he's been going too far, too long.
I am kind of a germaphobe when it comes to toilet seats. I had placed down toilet paper. After that, I went to this call and moved some people along. I saw in my reflection in the windows of the building that I had a nice toilet paper tail sticking out of the back of my uniform.
We were refueling and got sent out on another call in the middle of this, and so my partner didn't click off the pump quickly enough and spilled some on herself, so we had to drive to the next call with the windows down because the diesel smell was so overwhelming.
Practical jokes are a way of life at the fire station. So one night after a call, I had come back to my bed and the curtains rose up around my head and then they fell back down again. And it took me a while to figure it out, and I had to trace the fishing line that my other engineer had strung 30 feet through the ceiling and tied to my curtains and kept hitting me in the head with the curtains.
We were working at an air show, and we had a little ATV type vehicle, and we had a supervisor in the back of the vehicle, and we motioned to a water truck that we'd like him to spray the side of the spray the supervisor that was in there, but he goes, I'm out of water. But it isn't actually what he said. He said, it's a lot of water. And so when we turned, he opened it up, it pinned the supervisor against the inside of the vehicle, and we were all drenched, but it was absolutely hilarious.
We had a really icy and snowy night one night, and I was arresting a guy who was really, really drunk and couldn't even stand up straight, and he was sliding down my patrol car, the outside of my patrol car. Well, I went to try to stop him, and I slid down on top of him. Well, another officer who was there thought I was in a fight, and he came over to see what happened, and I yelled at him, he fell, and that was always the joke afterwards whenever I got in a fight, is that he fell.
A couple of years ago, I was driving eastbound on Interstate 94 east of Billings when I located a stolen truck going westbound. It was dead of winter in about February, and without even thinking, I should have been thinking, I activated my lights and drove into the median as fast as I could to turn around, and quickly realized there was about 3 to 4 feet of snow in the median. It buried my entire patrol car up until just the red and blue lights flashing, and I had to dig my way out, and that was pretty embarrassing.
My favorite saying came from my father, and that was, this is not a dress rehearsal. So embrace life and try to be as happy as you can and keep it as long as you can.
A problem is simply an opportunity disguised as an insurmountable obstacle.
Respect everyone, but trust them as far as you can throw them.
I have a bracelet that says grit and grace, and that applies to every aspect of my life.
I'm pretty excited that lots of people in my family work as first responders. My son got his EMT and he'd like to be a doctor. Another one of my sons is going to be a police officer. I have a brother who's a police officer, and my children's dad is a fireman.
The EMS and fire departments are stressed right now. Their volumes are up so high, and there's so much of it that is preventable, and I'm not just talking about vaccines, I'm talking about injuries, motorcycles, ATVs, and things of that nature, and I just want you to be careful. We want you to be happy and healthy.
In this profession, you see people on their worst day, and you are surrounded by tragedy and death and destruction, and it's very difficult to see people and your friends and neighbors and other people in your community suffering. But there's always glimmers of good and hope when your actions make a difference and people get to go home, or they get to be reunited with their family and their loved ones. And every now and then, like today, you get thank you, and that's amazing.
Being a police officer can be very stressful, but it's also very rewarding. We all have certain things that we work on that we specialize in, so you have that opportunity to expand and to grow, and it's really nice the way the community supports us.
I was born and raised in Billings, Montana, and it's shocking and abysmal to see how meth and other dangerous drugs have affected this community directly and indirectly. There's an immediate nexus to violent crime, property crime, and it's a hindrance to our system, the criminal justice system that is, and just society as a whole, that this drug can run as freely as it does throughout this community. And we just cannot give up working together in one cohesive unit to try to put a stop to it.
Some of my hardest times involved responding to people being shot, and now I'm responsible for trying to do the best I can on scene to save their life. I just wish people would stop shooting each other.
It's a hard job, but yet it's very rewarding, and the main focus is the patient and caring for people.
It takes a lot of courage to be an EMT.
Firefighting is tough, and I get to be here in the spotlight on the camera right now, but the people that make this happen are the ones that are doing it day in, day out. There's 100 of us, and it's not just me. All of them are amazing people, and I'm so proud to work with them.
Dan's always wanted to be a firefighter, and he'll tell you that since he was a kid. And I think as he's become a firefighter, he's really become a fantastic example of what you can be in that position.
Dan is a true leader. He's not a leader that puts himself out in the front, but he leads from the back. He's willing to do any task, whether menial or a high-quality task. He's always there.
He's really involved in training and mentoring in the department. He is one of the first people to respond. I mean, you can't beat him to the station. In fact, he bought his house close to the station so that he can be on those first engines out. I think his call percentage last year was about 45%, which means he was making almost half of the 911 calls to the department.
Dan bought his house just so he could be closer to the station so he can make his calls for 911 calls, and that's something that says a lot about him.
Dan's really humble. This is not something that he would say for himself, but we're incredibly happy that he's getting this recognition and this honor. So thanks, Dan.